Good morning, everybody. So, hopefully everybody was able to finish their test. If not, use your time at home to finish working on that next week. That will be something that'll hold you back from going outside. So make sure the diary and the test is done for next week. Okay. Before the test, we stopped and ended in chapter 37. Right? Does anybody remember what chapter 37 was about? Right? The title of chapter 37 was Lost and Found and Lost. Right? So what was that about? Dylan.
Amari and Tibet, they were inside of this shed, and this lady walked in, and it was her husband's shed, and at that event, they found Bessa. He was missing an eye, but he wasn't the same person as he was the
Right. So we see the emotional change that Bessa has gone through, right? He talked about it, right, with Amari. What did he tell Amari happened to him, Kevin?
He tried to escape a few times, but then he got caught, and his toes, his eyes were like ripped off, and the dogs were hurting him.
Right. Thank you, David.
He had 5 owners.
He had what?
5 owners.
He had 5 owners, right? And so we see from that chapter what emotional changes Bessa went through from when we first met him in the beginning of the chapter to this point when he's on Fiona O'Reilly's plantation, right? Okay, and what was Fiona's response, right? Because she had slaves. What was her response for the treatment of the slaves? How did she treat her slaves? Her and her husband treat the slaves. Yes, Amanda.
They treat them good.
Right, they treat them good. Now, there was a certain part of the novel where Amari had to get undressed. Do we remember what happened at that point? Remember, she was getting undressed and she was taking her time doing it, and Miss Fiona was observing her. What happened?
Fiona saw she was branded, and she said that it was a horrible thing, and she could never give it to her slaves.
Right, and what about on her back?
She saw the wounds that she had from the weapons.
Right, okay. So here we have Fiona O'Reilly, right? A white woman who's helping them, right? And so Amari was feeling some type of emotions. Do we remember those emotions she was feeling at that moment? Thinking about this white woman helping her, helping them to escape? What was the emotion that she was dealing with at that time? Were white people always nice to her? No.
Thankful.
So what was the,
Thankful.
was it completely thankful?
Partially.
Why was it partially?
Because of everything the majority of the white people have done to her.
Right, and how was her treatment? What was the treatment? What have they done to her?
Horrible.
Horrible, right? And so this goes into Amari's feelings, right? We've seen the development of Amari from chapter 1 to now. And so our objective in this chapter is to observe Amari's emotional change that she goes through in this chapter, okay? I want us to think about how she felt from when she was captured, how she felt from when she was on the boat. Remember that? What she was going through emotionally on the boat, from when she was being sold, right? All those points, from when she was actually brought to the plantation, from when she was actually told and given a job, right? To her nights with Clay, right? We've seen all of these moments with Amari and her emotional changes she's gone through. And so in this chapter, it is titled The Spanish Soldier. The Spanish Soldier. All right. What do we think is going to happen in this chapter? Yes.
Amari, Polly, and Tippet will encounter a Spanish soldier that was maybe like going back to their territory,
To what territory?
to Fort Mosaic.
Okay. Thank you, Dylan.
Probably Amari, Polly, and Tibbet, they probably made it where they wanted to go.
Right, so they're closer, so you're agreeing with Kevin, what Kevin's saying, that they're reaching closer to Fort Mose, or they've reached Fort Mose. Who else had their hand up? Titus, do you have your hand up? Okay, so do we all agree that they are closer? They might be closer. And what might else happen in this chapter? What interaction probably will happen with the Spanish soldier?
They might see Clay again, or the soldier might just not let them in or question them a lot.
Mm-hmm. What makes you bring up Clay? Why do you think they might see Clay again?
Because he told them that he would find them again sometime.
Right, but last time we seen him, he was tied up on a tree, right? So we think that Clay made it out of it, right? We think that we might see Clay again. What do you think, Dylan?
I think the Spanish soldiers are probably gonna capture them and make them slaves. And
Mhm.
make them like chicken slaves or something.
Mm-hmm. And remember, they met a particular character, right, who told them about Fort Mose, and that it was a real place, right? So we know Fort Mose is a real place, and Fort Mose is a place where any runaway person can go to be free, right? So we're going to pay attention to Amari's feelings in this chapter, and so as I had you do the exit ticket on Tuesday, I'm going to have you do that again today. And so the exit ticket will be for you to write about just about 3 different emotions, or 3 different things you notice with Amari's emotions in this chapter, okay? So I'll hand that out towards the end of the chapter. All right, so I'm gonna start reading, and then eventually I'll pass it off to someone. And they do speak a little Spanish in here in this chapter, so my Spanish isn't very good, so forgive me if I pronunciate words wrong, all right? Okay. All right, so we are starting at chapter 38. If you have the book, it is on page 265. You got it up? What page is that? If you have it online, it's 149, okay? All right, okay, let's start reading. With the wagon, they made remarkable time. What might have taken them 3 or 4 days walking, they covered in one evening, rolling not exactly smoothly over the bumpy, rutted road, but thankfully. Old Brownie seemed to have regained a bit of his youthful energy, neighing and shaking his mane at the start of each evening's travel. Polly chuckled to herself as she remembered a horse her father had once owned. Old Fart, he had called it, because the horse had a terrible problem with fluently. I looked this word up. How do we say it? Flatulence.
Flatulating. Yeah.
Flatulence, which means somebody who has a very gassy problem, right? Who passes gas a lot. He eventually sold it to a farmer he didn't like. One fart deserves another, her father had joked, making up funny horse stories, complete with vividly descriptive sound effects, all to amuse Polly. Her mother had frowned with mild disapproval at first, but eventually the 3 of them ended up laughing uproariously in front of the hearth that whole evening. Those were the times she missed. Not the days of hunger or rats or sickness, but the warmth of the fire when her family laughed. What do you miss most about your mother, Amari? She asked as they rumbled down the road in the starlight. Amari was silent for a moment. Then she said, seemed like no matter what I asked her, she always got the right answer. Sure be nice to talk to her one more time. Polly nodded in understanding. My father wasn't perfect, she admitted, but my mother truly loved him. She would light up like a lantern when he walked into a room. She paused. At the end, she was in severe pain, but she was so brave, never complaining, only worrying about what would happen to me. Amari pulled the reins so the horse would step around a branch on the road. I never seen my mama scared. Never seen her not know what to do. She breathed deeply of the night air. Even the night she died, she fight like a lion. Okay, and here we have a simile, right? This is a simile right here. You know, you're brave as well, Amari. Your mother would be proud of you, Polly said honestly. Your belief in Fort Mose, along with your strength and courage, is what has brought us this far. Amari shook her head. I be scared all the time, she admitted. I never be brave as lion like my mama. Okay, here we have another figurative language. What figurative language is being used here? Simile. Very good. Polly looked up at the sparkling night. I think of my mother at night as we travel, she told Amari. It helps. Amari glanced at the sky and smiled as if the thought was comforting. What about my mama? Tibbet asked them. Then, I want to go back home. Amari and Polly hugged him. We gotta find a new home, Amari told him. Your mama want you to be big boy. You know she love you, even if she can't be with you. Tippet seemed unconvinced. He put his thumb in his mouth and leaned against Amari. By day, they still hid as best they could, sleeping under the wagon and praying they would not be discovered. There had been no sign of Clay. Polly noticed that Amari seemed to be having trouble sleeping. One afternoon, when Amari spoke with a start, covered with sweat, Polly told her quietly, "You must think of your young man as dead," Amari said. Amari, I'm so sorry. Right, so who's the young man she's mentioning? Vesa, right? Who we mentioned earlier, that she's seen. Maybe it was a good thing, Polly suggested quietly. Perhaps it will give you strength to go on. Made me feel sick inside, Amari told her. And angry too. Okay, so here we have her talking about her emotions. Polly traced the pattern with her finger in the dirt. You know, I never really knew any black people before I came to Mr. Derby's place. I mean, everybody had slaves, of course, but I never actually thought about them. And I certainly never had a black friend before, she admitted. Amari looked away. Sometimes I hate white people, she admitted softly. I never hate before I be a slave. She stretched her arms. I never even seen a white person until they attacked my village. It'd be hard to have hate feelings and like feelings at same time, Polly said. I understand, Amari. Amari looked at Polly and she said shyly, I think now I have friend with pale skin. Polly replied quietly, for certain you do. Amari looked into Polly's eyes. If we get to Fort Mose, you gonna stay? Polly didn't answer right away. I don't know. I have not thought about it deeply. I truly have no place else to go. Amari shrugged. I never go back to my land, she said, her voice plaintive. But this be land of white people. Maybe you find a place for you. Maybe, Polly replied thoughtfully. Amari put her head in her hands and rocked. Finally, her voice full of anguish, she revealed her concerns. Maybe nothing be there, Polly. Maybe it be no good place. Maybe Bessa right, and we be catched. And maybe he is wrong, and you and Tibbet will be forever free, Polly said firmly. You told Fiona that Tibbet is yours. He is your child now, Amari. He needs you to be strong. So here we have it. Someone else is telling her, right? Just the same way Afi did, right? What is she saying to her? Titus.
Polly is telling Amari that he needs to be strong for Tidbit.
Yeah, right? Remember, now she's taking on Tidbit. She has to care for him. Polly can't care for him the way that Amari can, right? She is going to have to put her emotions to the side a little bit and be a mother at 15 years old, right? Maybe I'd not be strong enough to be a mother, Amari said doubtfully. Polly smiled and looked at the sleeping child. You would die for that child. Yes, for sure, Amari admitted. In my village, all women be mothers to all the children. Maybe Tibbet belonged to both of us, Amari said. Tibbet opened his eyes and grinned. Tibbet belongs to Tibbet, he said cheerfully. Amari's sad mood seemed to lift as she and Polly tickled him. Even when they played and laughed, however, they did it quietly. Always watchful of steps or danger. Always fearful of the return of Clay, right? And I remember somebody mentioned maybe Clay will come back, right? They're always in fear of Clay coming back. The land in southern Georgia lay vastly undeveloped with fewer and fewer settlements of farmers. Amari did see in the distance, however, occasional garrisons of soldiers the farthest south they traveled. Those soldiers make me nervous, Polly whispered to Amari, not wanting Tibbet to hear. Soldiers carrying guns, Amari said, remembering the men who had attacked her village. That'd not be good. Let's be extra quiet tonight, Polly suggested. The moon hid behind the clouds, and the night shadows played tricks on Amari's imaginations. She kept looking behind her. Nevertheless, they drove their little wagon carefully and slowly down the deserted path that night. It seemed to shout their location as it managed to hit every bump and hollow in the road. They traveled for several hours without saying a word when, without a warning, a shadowy body appeared 10 feet in front of them. Halt! Who goes there? The male voice called out shakily. Polly thought immediately of Clay. Perhaps he had found them once more. Amari clutched Tibbet to her and Polly grasped her arm. She was not sure if the man had seen them, to get so close and then be captured. The voice spoke again. Polly, halt! Stop! Polly! The footsteps moved unsteadily. If you mean me harm, or if you be phantasma, a ghost, I might be pronouncing it wrong, go away. Whoever had been speaking fell silent. What should we do? Polly whispered. Run, Amari whispered back. Leave the wagon. The two girls climbed down to the road, motioning to Tibbet to jump. But Tibbet, instead of silently slipping from the wagon, shouted, Who be that, Amari? The shadowy voice on the road roared. Tibbet screamed. Polly's heart sank. She knew they were captured, but the person on the road didn't grab either of the girls. He reached out and snatched Tibbet from Amari. Tibbet protested loudly and wriggled to get free. Then the voice yelped in pain, and suddenly Tibbet was back on the ground. Amari grabbed him back close to her. He bit me, a man's voice whined. Polly relaxed a bit. It wasn't Clay's voice, and when she thought about it, not even a threatening voice. Polly headed toward the man, then stopped. Hush Puppy barked hysterically. The silence of the night completely destroyed. They all stood there on the road like actors in a play, each waiting for the other's next move. Polly spoke first. Are you drunk? She asked, trying to understand the man's unusual behavior. Amanda, can you read that for me?
No estoy borracho.
Thank you. I am not drunk, the man responded. I never partake of strong spirits, but it might help. However, in this insect-infested country, he belched. What I am is afraid of the things in the night, wolves and bears and such. And children? Polly asked. Why not? It is dark, and you surprise me. He is soldier, Amari said, her voice low. Now, that is a fact, the man replied in agreement as he stumbled on the road. Amanda?
Soy un cabo en el ejército del rey.
Thank you. I am a corporal in the army of His Majesty King Philip V, of course. I have never met the king, but who am I to question kings and generals? He burped again. Greetings to you from...
Mi país de España.
Thank you. My beloved home country of Spain. You're Spanish? Polly asked suspiciously. She wished she could speak the language. And most proud of it, my dear, and missing my home mightily, he sighed. I am Domingo Salvador, Just another lonely soldier from Madrid. So, why you grab the child? Omari asked him angrily. The night frightens me. He could have been a bear. I was afraid, the soldier admitted, seeming to cower from Omari's words. I'm not no bear, Tibbet stated, sounded mildly insulted. Then he giggled. What are you children doing out here? Amida? Right? Is that Amida? Amelia. In the middle of the night, the soldier asked. Polly replied with another question. Where are the rest of the soldiers in your company? And why are you out here all alone at night? So what's going on with this soldier? He's over here burping and belching, and he said he wasn't drinking. What do you think is going on with him?
He said he's afraid of the night. Oh.
Right, but he's burping and belching. Right? I think he's drunk. Right? He's out, he's grabbing Tibbet, right? He thought Tibbet was what?
A bear.
A bear. Okay? Tibbet, a little 3-year-old bear. Okay? They are asleep, but we patrol the area for English troops and runaways. Me, I would rather be home with my Maria. We had just married when I was called to this service. He swatted at his arm. All I have for company are los mosquitos y las mamiri. How you say it? Thank you. He belched once more. What do you do with runaways? Polly asked carefully. The soldier looked at Polly with bleary eyes. Officially, runaways do not exist until they leave the colonies. But once they cross the St. Mary's River, we help them to St. Augustine. King Philip does not believe in slavery of any kind, he told them proudly. Which way to this river? Omari asked wearily. Just 2 days' journey down this road, the soldier replied. Why do you ask? You be runaways? Of course not, Polly said. Maybe you are intoxicated after all. I am returning to my home from a visit to my grandfather's house. The young soldier replied, I am sorry to have frightened you. Go back to your company, Corporal Salvador, Polly told him, and I will not tell my father that I saw you on the road. Oh, gracias, thank you, señorita. The soldier replied as he smoothed out his uniform. On the morrow, I will believe you were all in my... Thank you. He then looked at Polly seriously. Be careful, señorita. The soldiers of the English are cruel and dangerous. The river you need to cross is not far. Thank you, sir, Polly said, realizing he was not as simple as he looked. The Spanish soldier looked at the 3 children and smiled. The place you seek, my children, is called Gracias Real de Santa Teresa de Mose. The English call it Fort Mose. It is 2 miles north of St. Augustine. Sounding suspicious, Omari spoke up. What do you know about that place? Corporal Salvador sat down in the middle of the road. It is very small. Only about 100 people live there. Just a few families. But they own the land they work on. And they are free to do as they please, he added quietly. What are the people there like? Polly asked. Mostly free slaves. Some white folk, some Spaniards, Españols, lots of Indians from different tribes, Greek, Creek, Seminole, Cherokee, all living together. So these 3 tribes that he mentioned are native to Florida, okay? All living together. There is nothing like it in all the world. White soldiers in charge, Omari asked? The Spanish soldier laughed. Actually, no, El Capitan of the fort is Francisco Menendez, a black man. He was once a slave, okay? So this is very interesting. Here we have the leader of this free territory is a black man, right? Once a slave. Okay. Jeremiah, can you take it from there for me? And then Amanda, I don't know if you know how to speak Spanish, but Amanda, can you help us out? Thank you.
Of course, I know you are not interested in this place and simply returning home to your father, the soldier continued. But if you should ever be in that location, you would find churches, Catholic, of course, shops, gardens, and simple homes. Lots of children as well. He looked at Tidbit, who scooted behind Amari. You are right, sir, Polly said, continuing the pretense that none of them knew what they were actually discussing. My father must be buried by now, and I must be on my way. Corporal Salvador saluted the small group of travelers and told them gently, "Good luck, my children. May you go with God." With that, he disappeared back off the road and in the direction of his camp. It be real, Amari, with excitement in her voice. We must hurry. No streets of gold, however, Polly warned. Not that I believe anyone would. Streets of free are my whispered, much more than a true dream.
Okay. So, where are they? Are they closer?
Yes.
They're closer. How do we know that they're closer? They met a Spanish soldier. Okay. Also, Amari, in this chapter, right? How did she feel when she was first captured? How did she feel when she was first captured?
Confused and angry.
Confused and angry. What about when she was put onto the ship, right? And she was used as nightly entertainment. Yes, Christine. Say it again.
Hopeless.
What is it?
Hopeless.
Hopeless.
Hopeless. Thank you. Hopeless, right? Hopeless. And then she encountered Afi, right? And what did Afi give to her?
Strength.
Huh?
Strength.
She gave her strength, right? But then we have Amari being sold, right? Once she gets off the ship, she's being sold there, right? Standing there, stark, butt naked, nothing, birthday suit on, right? And she's being touched inappropriately. How was her emotions then?
She was uncomfortable.
She was uncomfortable, right? What else?
Violated.
She felt violated. Very good.
Disgusted.
Ooh, disgusted. Thank you, Nicole.
Afraid.
Afraid, right? And then she's brought to Mr. Derby's plantation. How did she feel there? How did she feel there? Do we remember that? Sad. How else did she feel? Right? Then she met Polly.
Depressed.
Depressed, sad, depressed. Very good. And these are the emotions that she has been experiencing for these past months, right? From when her life was snatched from her, right? Taken from her, right? She mentioned the last time she seen white men with guns was when they came to her village, right? And now she sees a Spanish soldier who means no harm, who is helping them, right? Totally opposite from what she remembered months ago, right? Also, how did she feel when she finally left the plantation? When they escaped?
Relieved.
Relieved. Very good. What happened to her?
She felt free.
She felt free, relieved, free. What else?
She became a leader.
She became a leader, right? And that strength that Afi continued to give to her, Teeny gave to her, Polly spoon-fed to her, right? Now she has become a leader in her own right. And now we see Amari, right? Being the leader, taking charge, taking her freedom. Taking her freedom, okay? So everyone, I want you to write down some of the things that you notice about Amari's emotions in this chapter that are important, okay? that'll carry her on into the next chapter, okay?
Don't forget your name on top,
Yes, please.
because
put
we're
your
gonna
name
give
on
you a
top.
little grade.
Please put your name on top, okay? Everyone at home, you can also do the same with an exit slip. You can send it to me through chat, writing what emotions that you observe in this chapter for Marley. Okay? Yes?
What would you say to her again?
You're gonna write down the emotions that you notice in, this chapter for Amari. Alright, and she has a few different emotions that are going on.
Could I stop
Okay.
it now?
Okay,